Okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning to everyone. It looks like we had a couple of more people just join in. I see some questions coming through already. We're going to get to that in just a moment. Welcome to Dallas Habitat's first ever financial education webinar. I see our counselor Porfirio Coronado, who has joined us today. Hey, Porfirio. Good to see you. Hey, Aretha. Aretha and Porfirio, y'all are on mute, but we see you waving. Thank you so much for joining today. These are our experts. Porfirio, Aretha, and myself, we are the homeowner services team here at Dallas Habitat. Our team has the great privilege of working with hundreds of first-time homebuyers every year in the Dallas community, many of whom have joined us today, and we're so excited to have you in this format. You know, with everything going on with COVID-19, obviously things are much different for everybody right now, including our team at Dallas Habitat. If you know us, you know that we work digitally already. We do a lot of what we do online, from our application to understanding if you qualify for our program to our online education. And so this webinar series for us is a really natural transition. We're really excited to be able to share this with you guys today. So before we start today, I do want to share a couple of things. We have a presentation that we're going to go through about financial fitness strategies. We have designed this presentation and this entire series that we'll be doing for you. So we want to hear from you. Please shoot us your questions. We'll get to some of those at the end of the presentation today. Porfirio and Aretha are going to be behind the scenes, busy at work, monitoring the questions that come through. If you're new to Zoom, if you're tuned in from your phone or from another device, from a computer, you can utilize the Q&A or the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen to ask a question. So ask away. As we're going through today, we're going to go through our top strategies for maintaining your financial fitness, and we want to know your questions about that. Anything we can do to support you, that's what we're here for. So send us your questions, and what we'll do is at the very end of the presentation today, Porfirio will moderate our Q&A discussion. So type them in as we go. We'll sort through and we'll answer them at the very end. All right, so let's get started. Okay. All right, so as we know, the coronavirus or COVID-19, as it's known, has really completely upended life for all of us. You know, some people have found themselves completely out of work right now. Some of us are adjusting to a new normal of sorts, working remotely, and others are considered, you know, essential. Our nurses, our bus drivers and transportation drivers, our food and service delivery workers. And these essential workers are working around the clock with new demands. And if you are considered an essential worker, we want to say thank you so much for everything you're doing to support the rest of us that are out here. But with all of these changes affecting so many aspects of our life right now, honestly, y'all, it is completely normal to feel uncertain or even anxious about the situation. And we want to be clear right now, your physical health should be your #1 priority. But that being said, you know, maintaining your financial health is also critically important. And so if we're able to create ourselves a financial footing during this time, we're much better prepared to face whatever might come our way. So today, we're going to go through our top strategies for maintaining financial fitness. Okay, we've met our team. We've talked about Q&A. Just so you guys know, we are going to record this webinar today, and it will be archived for on-demand access. So you guys will be able to go back and watch it, or if you just love what we have to share today and you want to share it with somebody else, it'll be stored on our YouTube channel. If you don't already subscribe to Dallas Habitat social media, please make sure, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. We just posted on our stories today about this webinar, and we'll make sure all of that information is available on those channels. On our YouTube channel, not only are we going to archive these webinars, But our advocacy team just launched an amazing podcast series called Dallas Unplugged. It's all over YouTube. Definitely be sure to check that out as well. Today, at the end of the presentation, even after you log off, we'll send you a follow-up email by tomorrow with resources that are going to be able to support you on your financial journey. All right, so our first financial tip of maintaining financial health during this time is revisiting your budget. Okay, so here's the thing. Budgeting, we know budgeting gets a bad rap, right? Because for most of us, the word budget drums up the same kind of feelings as the word diet, right? We feel limited, we feel restricted, we feel imprisoned. But the truth is, budgeting is not about being handcuffed. Really, instead, it's one of the most liberating things that you can do. It's one of the most empowering things that we can do for ourselves because it allows us to make more informed decisions, and ultimately, we're in more control of our money. And so really, if we're in control of our money, we're in control of our lives. So if you don't have a budget, and by budget, what we mean is a documented form of tracking your income and expenses, now is a perfect time to do that. One thing that many of us have on our hands, for good or for worse right now, is time. And so budgeting may not be the most fun activity you could think of, but it's one of the most essential right now. So if you don't have a budget, this is a great time to start. Like I said, we have a lot of great resources that we share on this subject at Dallas Habitat. In terms of writing down a budget, it can be everything from old school pen and paper, a check ledger, keeping track of your receipts and writing those down, to something maybe slightly more sophisticated, like an Excel spreadsheet or something online, to something that maybe is even slightly more automated, and that would be like a budgeting application. Our counselors, Porphyr and Aretha, have some really great recommendations for some of the top budgeting apps. One of the most popular that tends to be used is Mint. Mint is a really great budgeting app that pulls in all of your data for you. So if you're like me, the most painful part of budgeting is really just pulling together the data. To get my data, I'm going to have to go and review all my bank statements, review my credit card statements, review my paycheck, my income, and pull all that data together in one spot. So the nice thing about a budgeting app is that it'll do it for you. So if that's the biggest pain point for you, you might consider using one of those applications. Like I said, if you have questions about recommendations, reach out to one of our counselors about that. But here's the good thing about budgeting. If you're writing down not just your income, but also your expenses, you're going to be more in tune with right now during COVID-19. Are there things that you're spending money on right now that you really don't need to be spending money on? So let me give you an example. Let's say maybe I normally pay for a gym membership, but right now, of course, the last thing I'm doing is walking into a gym. And so I might forget that that's something that's automatically withdrawn from my account every month. So as I review my statement, I might spot that and say, geez, if they haven't already done something for me at my gym, maybe prorated my membership dues or just stopped my dues altogether, I might want to consider pulling the plug on that. In the same way, there might be subscription services that I subscribe to. Maybe it's magazines, maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's something that I love and it's a luxury and it's fun, but it's something I could do without. And so think about these opportunities, if you will, that exist in your budget that under these different circumstances that we're in today, you might be able to cut out and free up some space. In the Dallas Habitat Counseling Program, if you're working with Porphyrio or working with Aretha, the very first thing that you will do is create a budget. So I think today, on today's webinar, we have some of our brand new clients. Dallas Habitat just opened up our program again to the general public. If you are new to our program, we say welcome. We're so glad to have you. And just know that I'm not kidding. Next week, when you speak with Porphyr and Aretha, they're going to say, hey, brand new client, so happy to have you. First thing I want you to do is complete a household budget. And the reason is, until you really document that budget, you don't have a good hold on where you stand financially. So that should always be your very first step. You know, we also talk on here about, you know, the fact that many of us are saving on some of the typical expenses that we have, and normally some of the largest expenses. So for instance, if I usually spend my weekends eating out, going out to dinner, maybe I travel, maybe I'm a commuter normally to work, but maybe I'm working from home now. These are all savings that I have. The challenge that we would challenge you with is, if you are blessed enough, if you are lucky enough to still have income coming into your household right now, whether that's your normal income, whether it's income, but maybe it's reduced income, or maybe it's unemployment income. Regardless, if you are lucky enough to have income coming in right now, and you are saving on some of your normal expenses that you have, think about how you're going to maximize those savings and turn them into something brand new, turn them into savings. So put a pin in that. We'll get to savings in just a second. So the last thing we would say about this subject, on the subject of budgeting, is that there are plenty of ways to have fun as a family and be entertained as a family that cost absolutely nothing. And now more than ever, y'all, because the truth is all of us are in this together, right? And so many companies right now are out there promoting free 90-day trials of things. There's plenty of free stuff just on the whole that you can do with your family, whether it's spending more time outside, whether it's exercising outside, whether it's having a family game night or a family movie night, or maybe it's camping in your living room. Maybe it's camping in your backyard, whatever that might be. There's plenty of ways right now that you can have fun that don't involve spending money. Okay, so real quick, we want to hear from you. We're going to launch our first poll. The first poll question is, how effectively do you currently budget? Okay, so you're going to pick one of these options. So let us know. We want to hear from you, and I will let you guys know these polls that we're going to run today are anonymous. So don't worry. If you're working with Porphyria or Aretha, they won't know if you're not following your budget plan. So take a few seconds to answer this poll. I see some answers coming in. That's awesome. We're asking, how effectively are you currently budgeting? And if you don't have a budget, that's okay. That's what we're here for. All right, just a few more seconds. Perfect. Okay, so no surprise here. It turns out we don't have any masters at budgeting. There are 0 people that would say that they are a master at budgeting, and that's completely normal. So don't feel afraid if you feel like you're not where you'd like to be when it comes to budgeting. It's okay, because the truth is, like most other important goals in our lives, we have to start somewhere. The majority of people that completed the poll right now said they do not currently have a budget. So if that's you, you're not alone. Just know, like I said, we're here to help you with that. Our counselors will help support you in creating a budget, which is step 1, but then beyond that, maintaining your budget, which is equally important. A plan does nothing if you don't follow it, right? So we'll follow up the session at the end of today with more really great tools on how to start your budgeting. And just show you real quick, there's our breakdown, y'all. If you can see that, 42% currently don't have a budget. So you can see a majority of people are really in this category, right? Either don't have a budget or have a budget, but maybe don't review it a ton. Okay, so on to step 2. We've talked about revisiting your budget. Now, our second strategy for financial fitness right now is growing your emergency fund. Okay, so what is an emergency fund? Emergency fund is a savings that specifically can cover between 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. In the case that, for instance, you lose a job, you get sick, etc. And so if you work with Dallas Habitat, if you know anything about our team, You know that every opportunity we get, we're talking about the need to build your emergency fund, the need to save money, and how that is the most important and also the most overlooked part of financial fitness among our clients. And so we know that's so important. But here's the thing, I mean, right now with COVID-19, the truth is we all feel this more than ever, right? So we know the reality, the truth about the risk of us falling ill, the truth about the risk of us losing a job or losing income or having reduced income. These are very real things happening, you know, to all of us right now. You know, when you think about how many people have filed self-employment in the last month, it is a huge percentage of our entire country. And so we need to be prepared for the unexpected. The thing is, if we don't have savings set aside, then we are forced to pay for the unexpected expenses that come up. In what way? Well, typically this involves going into debt, right? This typically involves leveraging credit. Maybe we put that money that we need to access, maybe we charge it to a credit card, or worse yet, maybe we go and try to get a payday loan or some sort of loan with an incredibly high interest rate that from day one, we are set up to fail. So do yourself a favor and spend this time growing your emergency fund. And you know, the best part about having an emergency fund is that you can start with whatever you've got. You can start as small as you need to. So all that really matters is that you're consistent and you make savings a habit. Because if you do that, eventually you'll get there. And so we talked about earlier in step one about how many of us are saving on some of our current expenses that we have right now. So think about how you take that money that you might have spent with you and your kids, eating out at restaurants maybe, or going to the movies, or on sports activities maybe for your children. All that money that you had planned to spend that you're now not spending, how do you reallocate that into savings? Okay, and by savings, to be clear, we're not talking about just leaving that money in your checking account. Growing an emergency fund means that you are actively managing a savings fund separate from your day-to-day checking account. And so for most people, that's going to mean a savings account. So the pro tip here is, if you do not have a savings account open one. Our counselors, I promise you, are going to recommend that from the very beginning if you do not have a savings account. So open one, and even if you're just depositing 20 bucks a paycheck, it's something. It'll add up over time. So think about ways that you can jumpstart your savings. The other really great way to jumpstart your savings would be like, imagine y'all, what if things were normal and all of a sudden, out of the blue, unexpectedly, you receive a check from the government for $1,200. Maybe you're lucky, maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's $2,400. Maybe it's $500 for every dependent that you have. Does that sound familiar to anyone? So if you were blessed enough to receive a stimulus check this week, or if you are expecting to receive a stimulus check, the best thing you can do is, if at all possible, designate at least a portion of that check towards savings. And again, guys, this could be $20 out of that check if that's all you can afford, okay? It could be more than that. Maybe you're lucky enough to still have income coming in and you can afford to save a couple $100 out of that check. Maybe you're really blessed and you can save it all. Whatever you're able to do, make sure you set aside a portion of that money. None of us were expecting to get that money 30 days ago, right? And so this could be a huge opportunity for all of us to kind of kickstart that emergency fund. So here we go. We're going to do another poll. And this time we want to know, what do you plan to do with your stimulus check? Assuming you're going to get one, tell us, what do you plan to do with it? Here are options. Pay my current living expenses, right? I'm just looking to make ends meet right now, maybe. Maybe I am going to build my savings because Blaine told me to do that, and I should probably get started with that. Pay down some of my debt. Maybe have a different plan, something else. Or if you're not sure, that's okay too. Tell us what you think. Okay, just a few more seconds here. Perfect. Okay. Results are in. I'm pleased to share 73% of people that have voted said they're planning on building their savings with that stimulus check. So thank you to the government for that nice little gift that we can use to create our goals, and to achieve our goals rather. Fantastic, excellent. So let's move on. We've talked about revisiting our budget. We've talked about growing our emergency fund. Now we want to talk about keeping your debt low if you're able. Now, again, during COVID-19, right now, a lot of this is dependent on your personal situation. What are things like for you financially right now? What's changed with your income? What's changed with your expenses? If you are a Dallas Habitat client, then we know that you have the ultimate goal of buying a home, and we're here for it. We're here to help see you across that finish line. Here's the thing. If you have the goal of becoming a homeowner at whatever point in the future, if it's 2 months from now, if it's 2 years from now, how you manage your debt is an incredibly important factor in your overall financial well-being. The amount of debt that you owe, your balances versus your limits on revolving credit, like credit cards, of course, your credit score, and your payment history. These are the biggest factors that go into affecting that overall score, that 3-digit number that's going to guarantee whether or not we get approved for a mortgage, and if we do get approved for a mortgage, how much we get approved for a mortgage. And so while we know this is a really difficult financial time for everybody, if at all possible, we really want to make sure that we resist the temptation to acquire new debt simply as a way to make our financial ends meet. Okay, so again, for that purpose, we should have an emergency fund that we can dip into. If we find ourselves stretched a little too thin this month, things are different, our income is down, but maybe our expenses are still fairly high, we should have an emergency fund that we can dip into. Okay, so that's why that is the important step that comes before tip number 3. So instead of charging up our high balances on credit cards with high interest or those payday loans, we should be thinking about what money we've set aside that we can have there and dip into just in case we need it. You know, and here's the thing, guys, if we have anyone on our call today that's been affected either personally, directly or indirectly by layoffs or furloughs or reductions in income, the truth is some of us may have no option other than to utilize credit. And I want to be clear about something here. Credit is not a bad thing. Debt is not a bad thing, okay? Thinking about debt in and of itself could be in the form of a mortgage payment. Mortgage payment might be your ticket to home ownership. And home ownership is one of the greatest things that you can do for yourself and for your family and for your future generations to come in terms of leaving an asset, right? So when you think about it that way, credit and debt, those are not bad things. But it's all about how you use them. And so right now, if you find yourself unemployed or with lower income than usual, you might have no choice but then to utilize a credit card or utilize a personal loan. Okay, and that's not a bad thing. But the thing is, if you have charged up your credit card balances so much that you've basically maxed out your balance, okay, maxed out your credit card limit, and now you lose your job, then what? Now we're not prepared. Now our capacity is constrained. Now we risk that we default, okay? And so we need to be proactive and making sure that we're being responsible when it comes to utilizing that tool, which is credit, okay? So let's do a quick poll. We want to hear from you. Our third poll is, what are your top strategies for keeping your debt low? And you can pick more than one on here. So whichever ones that you think apply to you. So tell us now, what are your top strategies for keeping your debt low? Some options here is just, pay with cash or money that I already have, right? Maybe I have an emergency fund that's already saved. I'm going to dip into that. Maybe my strategy is I'm just going to live within my means. I'm going to spend money on what I absolutely have to spend money on. And if it is not necessary, it's coming out of my budget this month. And that goes kind of hand in hand with trimming my expenses. And also avoiding those tempting offers, right? To buy now and pay later. All that is a formula for paying more money in the long run, right? Excellent. We've got almost everybody has answered. Just a minute more. Awesome. All right, let's take a look here. It looks like most people are looking to trim those expenses and avoid those offers to buy now and pay later. Y'all are experts. I love it. So fantastic. That's great. You guys are on the right track if that's kind of your prerogative right now. All right. So we talked about revisiting budget, building emergency savings, keeping your debt low. These are all fantastic steps to take right now. Let's talk step number 4 or tip number 4. And that is reach out for help if you need it. It is so incredibly important that if you feel that you are unable to make your bills, pay your bills, that you communicate with your creditor, okay? This is not the time to feel embarrassed. This is not the time to feel like you need to hide and keep that business to yourself. Whether it's a landlord, whether you're afraid that you can't make your rent, whether it's a utility company, your bank, when it comes to credit card statements or loans, if it's your student loan provider. Let me tell y'all a pro tip, okay? Customer service agents are much more friendly and much more accommodating than a collection agency, okay? Again, let's be truthful here. We are all in this together, okay? Everybody, I mean, not even just Dallas, Texas, not even just the United States, right? Globally, we're in this together. It is no secret that people are struggling right now, okay? Do not feel embarrassed. If you feel like you're at risk for defaulting, it is your responsibility as a consumer of credit to communicate, okay? So here's the thing, many lenders right now are already offering forbearance and other sorts of flexibility. For example, for federally backed mortgages and also federally backed rental homes right now, there is a moratorium on evictions, okay? So know that you have some rights and protections right now that are designed to keep you from defaulting more than you have to. But here's the truth, we don't know answers to questions that we don't ask, right? And so we have to be willing to speak up, have a conversation, be forthcoming with our creditors if we need help. And the other thing is, be prepared to do your homework, okay? So before you just pick up the phone and have a phone call with your creditor and say, look, I need help, that's not a bad step. But a better step would be to really do your research in advance and understand, by doing your budget and by looking at your overall financial profile, what can I actually afford to pay today? And when do I think I might be able to get back to a point that I can pay what I normally am able to? So make sure you have that information in advance so that you can talk through a payment plan or a forbearance plan if you need to, that actually works for you. All right, so this brings us to our 5th and final tip today, which is keep your eye on the prize. Again, at Habitat, we know our audience. We know most people that are tuned in today have the ultimate goal of achieving homeownership, of becoming a homeowner. And like I said, we're here for you. We're all about that. You're not going to find any bigger advocate of homeownership than the Dallas Habitat Homeowner Services team. And the thing is, in challenging times like these, though, sometimes we as consumers have the tendency to have these knee-jerk reactions, right? And we press pause on some of these big, scary goals that we have set out for ourselves to achieve. And we're here to tell you it doesn't have to be an either-or decision. You can do all of this and be in control of your finances and still even if your financial profile has changed in the last 30 days, guys, you can still make progress towards your overall financial goals, including homeownership. So don't let the emotions get the best of you. By making a plan, you're going to be better able to understand what you can control and what's outside of your control. Think incredibly carefully before you touch some of your long-term savings, like retirement savings, stocks and investment. It can be really scary. It can make you feel uncertain and anxious, right? To be watching the news and seeing all of this news coming through over the last month about the stock market's crashing, things are down, Don't get caught up in the fray, okay? The worst thing that you can do is make a knee-jerk reaction with your finances in the thick of the moment like this, okay? The truth is, long-term investment strategies like your retirement savings, like a 401k, like investing in the stock market, home ownership investment, these long-term investment strategies level out over time. There's going to be dips in the market that come up, and that's okay. They will recover over time. So the best thing that you can do is, if you're already contributing to something like a 401k or retirement savings, whatever you do, don't touch your contribution, and certainly do not touch money, if you do not need to, that's been stowed away. Particularly for retirement, you should know that retirement savings that you've accumulated in an account like a 401k is heavily taxed if you do withdraw it before the retirement age. Plus, let's just be truthful, guys. When we do hit retirement age, we want that money to be there, right? So let's not think short term. When we really are going to be in control of our finances, we have to have our eye on the big prize. We have to be thinking long-term financial success. Robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? Dipping into our retirement savings to pay for a down payment for buying a home, not the best strategy, right? Ideally, we've really divvied up our savings in a way that allows us to achieve short-term financial goals, mid-term financial goals, and long-term financial goals. So you'll be able to get there. And like I said, the great thing with our team, our counselors are incredibly, well-trained and certified to be able to provide this sort of financial coaching to you if you've applied to our program and if you're interested in working with us. Just remember that with a plan in hand, you may find that you can still make progress towards your goals right now. And so if you're ready to get started, we're ready to help you get there. And this too, like so many other things that happen in life, the low things and that can come up, this too shall pass. So we're going to get over this and think about, really envision where you want to see yourself financially on the other side of this crisis. And then think about the baby steps that you can take today that are going to help you get there. All right, one more poll that I got for you guys today. Here we go. And the poll is, what steps can I take today to reach my goal of homeownership? If you are on the webinar today and you are interested in becoming a homeowner, what can you do right now that'll allow you to reach that goal of homeownership? So maybe it's making a budget and sticking to your budget. Maybe it's keeping your debt low. Maybe it's starting your savings fund, it's building your emergency fund. Maybe it's continuing my education. And when I mean education, I mean financial education. I mean homebuyer education. I mean, taking advantage of the resources that are out there, like the classes that we do, and maybe it's all the above. And just about everybody has voted. Results are almost in. All right. Looks like, for the most part, 75% of people that voted said everything, Blaine. Everything we went through today is incredibly important to making sure I can reach my dream of homeownership. And y'all, we would agree. That's absolutely the truth. All right. So here we go. We're here to help. Like I said, Dallas Habitat, here are some of the ways that we can support you guys in achieving financial fitness during this time, we are going to have more free upcoming webinars, including a webinar that we just posted that we will host a week from today. Next Saturday, April the 25th, we're going to be back here with our friends at Bank of America. We're bringing on a community loan officer who is wonderful, fantastic, a local loan officer in Dallas, and that a lot of our buyers work with quite often. Here's the thing about Bank of America. They're fantastic, have a lot of really great loan products right now with loan down payment options, but they also have some really great down payment assistance programs. We're hosting or co-hosting a webinar with them next Saturday that is going to be titled Intro to Home Ownership. You can get information on that webinar by going to our website, just like you did for this webinar, and clicking under education and looking at our webinar calendar. The only difference, I will let you know if you're tuning in today and you're interested in tuning in for that webinar as well, it will not be on Zoom next week. Bank of America will be hosting that on a platform called WebEx. Because of that, there's no registration needed. So you can literally just go there next Saturday morning, 10:45, click the link and join us right from there. And one of the other ways that we can also support you all, if you're not already familiar with our online financial education, that is called PocketWise Cafe. You can find information about PocketWise also on our website. And if you are in the Dallas Habitat program, you'll be able to access that from our homebuyer community as well. PocketWise Cafe is free financial education. These are self-guided modules and they're quick, okay? When it comes to adults, none of us, I don't care if we are working from home or stuck at home right now, none of us have time to spend, just hours and hours and hours doing online education. So these are, 3 to 5 minute modules on a variety of subjects. If you have checked out PocketWise in the past, but you haven't been on in a while, you may want to take another peek. We have a whole new playlist on there specifically about financial wellness during uncertain times like this. So check it out. We also have online HUD certified homebuyer education. So if we have everybody on the call today who needs a certified class for a program they're participating in, know that we do have that resource available. And lastly, but the most importantly, is our homeownership counseling program. And this program is conducted by our team, myself, Porfirio, and Aretha. Aretha and Porfirio are HUD certified homeownership counselors, y'all. And they are some of the only ones in Dallas that do what they do. They are experts in their field. They're really great at their jobs. And they're here to help you design a plan to become mortgage ready. So if you're thinking about homeownership, not sure if it's right for you, and you'd like to participate in one-on-one counseling, you can go on our website to see how you can learn if you would be a good fit for our program, and if you are, how to submit an application for that. Lastly, a couple of other resources like we talked about. If you want to take a screenshot of this or take a picture of this, you're welcome to do that. Here's the link for PocketWise. Here's the link for our webinar calendar on our website. And also know on our website, we do have information not just about counseling, but also a very extensive list of COVID-19 resources that our team has put together. So be sure to check that out as well. Now we're going to open it up for a Q&A session as promised. I'm sure we had some people that submitted some great questions throughout the session. Porfirio is going to moderate this session and read off a couple of questions for us to answer in the few minutes that we have left.
Hey, Blaine. So yes, so one client did ask the question regarding budgeting. This person said that at this time she doesn't really do a budget because it's hard for that person to follow a budget because she does have a couple of jobs and it's hard to keep track of that. What do you suggest on that?
That's great. Okay, yeah. So I would say if you're having trouble keeping a budget because it comes down to, I have a lot of things coming in and a lot of things going out and it's just a lot to keep a track of, again, I would really recommend a budgeting app. Let an application do the work for you, okay? A budgeting app, how a lot of these work, like Mint, we talked about Mint earlier, and we may be able to drop that in the chat for you guys as well. Mint will allow you to be able to sync up not just your bank account information and your credit card information, but also, if you choose, information from your employers. So that way it's pulling in all of the relevant information. As an example, if you have direct deposit set up for your paychecks from your various jobs into a particular bank account and you sync that bank account, Mint will recognize those various sources of deposits as income for you. The other really great thing about some budgeting apps like Mint that are out there is that when it comes to your expenses, based on the company that the expense was incurred with, a lot of times it will automatically categorize your expenses. So you can look back for the month of March as an example, and you can see, geez, I spent, X amount on transportation, and I had only budgeted that much less than that. But maybe that was an unusual month for me. Maybe I was commuting more to work than I normally do, or whatever the case might be. So it allows you to know when we talk about budgeting, again, remember, budgeting is not just writing down your income and expenses. That's the first step in budgeting. But truly, budgeting is most successful when you have your plan and then you monitor your activity against your plan. You monitor reality versus a plan. Then it becomes a budget. So I would recommend, if the biggest challenge is just kind of keeping track of everything, you might consider an application.
Thank you so much for that, Blaine. The other question that another person had is it better to pay down your credit card balance in full, or should we just pay off the minimum balance every month?
That is a great question. We get asked this question all the time. So the question is, I have a credit card, and should I pay off my entire balance in full, or should I just make the minimum payment? Y'all, there are a lot of myths out there about this subject. I have heard time and time and time again in workshops that we host of people saying, someone told me that my credit score will be higher if I just make my minimum payment. That is false, okay? That is not true. The best way when it comes to, and I would say to the question that Porfirio read, it depends on, so it depends on your financial situation. Here's why I say that. If what you can afford to make is your minimum payment right now, make your minimum payment, okay? If you make your minimum payment, you won't be late, you won't default, you won't have late payments on your credit, and that's good. But by making a minimum payment, what will you pay? Interest, okay? And interest means that you're gonna pay more money for that money that you borrowed. So interest means if I borrowed $50 on my credit card, but I pay that, my minimum payment is $10 a month and I pay it over 5 months, I will not pay back $50. I'll pay back $50 plus interest, okay? So for who loves minimum payments? Banks do, credit card companies do. Why? Because interest that you pay is money for them, right? So think about if the purpose of that question to ask is, what is a better strategy for increasing my credit score or for maintaining a good credit score? The best strategy is to, when you borrow money on a credit card, pay your balance off in full every single month, okay? That is a proven strategy. That shouldn't be a secret. However, there are a lot of myths about that. So the best thing you can do is make sure you are responsible, pay it off in full every month. The other great thing about doing that is that nowadays, as we know, there are so many great offers out there for some of these credit cards that have amazing points, right? Travel points and stuff like that. But here's the thing, those credit cards that have those amazing points come with incredibly high interest rates. We're talking 20 to 25% interest on the money that you borrow. So what those companies are hoping that we do is say, oh, I can't wait to get those free airline miles. I'm going to sign up for this and I'm going to spend as much money as I can, and then I'll just pay back what I can when I can. The best way to game that system is to get those credit cards, charge what you can within your capacity, and pay your balance off in full every month. So one great strategy for taking advantage of credit cards like that I would normally recommend is only spend on your credit card what you would otherwise spend. So maybe you think about switching utility payments, or switching a gym membership, or charging your gas or charging your groceries on those cards, because you know you would have paid for that money with cash or with a debit card anyway. So if that's the case, then you know you have the money in your bank account to pay it off in full every month. What it boils down to is, do we have the discipline to do that? And that's where the financial coaching comes in. Good question, Porfirio.
Great, thank you, Brian. One last question that another attendee has is, do you recommend the 50, 20, 30 rule when it comes to budgeting?
Love the 50, 30, 20 rule. Whoever threw that out is a budgeting expert. Y'all said that nobody in this room today was a master at their budget, but at least one person is. That is a fantastic question. So the 50, 30, 20 rule is a rule by which you determine, okay, 50% of my budget is going to be allocated towards my living expenses. So these are things like your rent, these are things like transportation, these are things like basic stuff that I have every month, right? Gas, groceries, whatever the case might be. So be thinking about, 50% of my budget every month should be allocated for that. And then that frees up money, okay, for what we consider, when we talk about needs versus wants. Needs are your living expenses. Wants are maybe things that aren't a living expense, but they make life a little bit more pleasurable, right? Things like when COVID-19 passes, y'all, eating out, going to the movies, traveling, and maybe, some of these subscription services that we talked about, Netflix, whatever the case might be. But then the 20%, so 50% needs, 30% wants, okay, 20% minimum for saving, okay? At Habitat, we have a saying that I promise you, if you haven't heard us say, you'll hear us say many times: pay yourself first. Pay yourself first means, just like you pay your landlord every single month, just like you pay your utility company every single month, just like you pay your student loan provider, you should be paying yourself in the form of saving, okay? And so doing that will allow you to liberate yourself, because you are having the discipline of building that fund. A great way to build your emergency fund, by the way, and achieve that 20% in the 50, 30, 20 rule, is to think about automatic withdrawal from your paycheck. So nearly every employer, if they provide direct deposit options for you, they will also provide normally the option for you to choose to split out a portion of your paycheck automatically into savings. So think about how many employers offer a 401k contribution option where you can just automatically take it out and it goes into your retirement savings. They do that on purpose, y'all. Who is going to say when they are 30 years old, you know what I'm going to do is every month I'm going to set aside a little bit of money, but maybe even a little bit more than a little bit of money. Maybe it's $200, maybe it's $100. And I'm going to save that for when I need to retire. No one's going to do that. They know that, right? And so they incentivize us to say, listen, we know, and you should be saving for retirement. One day you're going to hit that age, you're going to hit your 60s, and you're going to say, geez, I might want to retire. But can you financially do it? So same thing with your savings. You can actually set it up with your employer to automatically take out however much you want to do. And we do this with clients all the time in homeownership counseling. It suggests if your goal is to save $150 every month, and maybe for you that's $75 a paycheck, instead of saying, I'm going to take that $75 out myself and physically transfer it into a savings account, have it done automatically. If it's not there, you don't even see it. It's like it doesn't exist. And over time, when you need it and your counselor says, Blaine, did you achieve your goal? Are you ready to make a deposit to purchase a house? Ready to make a down payment? And I'm going to look into that account and say, oh my gosh, how did that even happen? How did I get that money there? So think about making savings automatic and pay yourself first. Does that conclude our questions, Porfirio?
The last question that someone asked was in the chat is, are the webinars open for everyone? Are they open to the public?
That's a great question. Yes, these webinars are completely free. They're open to anybody, anywhere. If we have one person tune in or if we have 100 people tune in, we're doing the same thing that we're doing. What I would add too is, so remember a couple things. Remember that you can access, anybody can access our webinars on our website. Our website is www.dallasareahabitat.org. On that website, under homeownership, we have a section for education. Now, normally we also offer in-person classes. With COVID-19, of course, unfortunately, we had to cancel all of our in-person sessions at this time. But as you can see, that's not stopping our team from continuing education for our home buyers. So what I would suggest that you do is get on our website, look at the tab under education that says webinars. There is a calendar there. We have 2 more webinars coming up this month so far, and we will be scheduling more, which we're so excited about. Our next webinar, like I mentioned earlier, is going to be next Saturday at 10 a.m. with our partners at Bank of America. The topic is Intro to Homeownership. Anybody who wants to buy a house should definitely be attending that webinar. And then also, fun fact, April is National Fair Housing Month. We take that super serious at Dallas Habitat. What that means is that you need to know what your rights are as a renter and as a home buyer, okay? And the truth is, y'all, that unfortunately, segregation and discrimination still exists very much in our society. And so it is our responsibility, we believe at Dallas Habitat, to help educate consumers about your rights and your protections under the law so that you know what you're able to do and what landlords and sellers are not able to do. So we're hosting a session later this month that's also on the webinar calendar, and that will be on knowing your rights when it comes to fair housing. And we're going to bring on our partners at the North Texas Fair Housing Center to talk about that. So don't miss that session. Here's the other thing. We want to hear from you. So you're going to receive a follow-up email by tomorrow, just for the fact that you registered for it and tuned into this webinar today. Please let us know if there is a topic that you want to hear about. If that topic is credit, if that topic is, I want to talk more in detail about budgets, whatever the case might be, then think about what those topics are, and we want to hear from you. So again, let me go back real quick. I'm going to show y'all something real quick. Okay, these are our resources again. So don't forget, this is PocketWise. Here's a link for upcoming webinars. Again, you guys are welcome to, snap a pic of that if you'd like to, or take a screenshot of that. But that's just our website, the education page on our website, okay? And then the other thing that I'll show you real quick is one more last thing. If you have not seen PocketWise Cafe, I'm going to show this to you guys real quick, just to give you a quick preview of this. We talked about PocketWise earlier. This is Dallas Habitat's online free financial education, okay? And this is the new playlist that we have that I mentioned. But you'll see we've got playlists on everything from loans and repayments, which includes credit, to money basics, to buying a home, and more. You can even make a personalized playlist down here, and it'll ask you to answer a couple of quick questions about your financial goals. And when you do that, it'll create a playlist with modules just for you. So take advantage of these resources. We are doing this for you guys. When it comes to the webinars, really and truly, guys, we want this to be productive for you. So this is about us sharing relevant information. If you guys have a topic that you're like, you've never done a class on this, but I would love to learn about, XYZ, shoot us an email, get on our website. There's a contact us field that you can fill out, and make sure you keep an eye out for the confirmation email we send within the next day. We also are including in that in the post-webinar information, a survey about this webinar. Let us know if you found this helpful. Let us know if you'd like to see a different topic for us to cover. We're here to support you, and we're so happy that everybody today that joined us tuned in. Thanks for taking some time out of your Saturday to join, and we'll see you hopefully next Saturday. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great weekend.